Nikki, did you want to?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I hope, could everybody hear that okay? Okay, so, well, even if you couldn't hear it that well, there were some stunning images. And so we want to do like a really short, engaging activity. So what I would like you to do is reflect back on the video, any part, and think of one thing that stood out to you in the video, that stood out to you, an image, a sound, a movement, anything. And so turn to someone next to you, preferably a stranger. Let's make some beautiful food connections. And I'm going to give you 1 minute for both of you to share one thing that stood out to you. And it could be a question that you have. And then we'll ask for a few people to share. So I'm going to give you 1 minute with a partner. Ready, go. Sorry. I didn't do the last part of my talk because it was on. How do you listen about the gong? A little bit more, a little bit more. Okay. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. If you can hear my voice, clap 3 times. Awesome. It only took 3 claps. Fantastic. That was a beautiful chorus of sound. We're only going to have a few minutes, so anybody want to share what stood out to you from that video clip? Peaches. Peaches. What about the peaches? Who am I looking at? Who said peaches? Anyone else? Yes. Anyone else? Go ahead. Yes.
Well, I see the palm trees, and I used to live in Fresno County, and there was a really big peach farm, the Smith Camps. Have you heard of that?
Yes, yes, yes.
And my house was actually built on a peach farm, like where they took out some of the land.
Mm-hmm.
But I know they've taken those palms out and they've donated some of the land to the high school, winding roads and stuff. And I just wonder how you fare against competition, because they're so big in the valley.
Yeah.
In Fresno County.
Yeah. So for you, the video took you right back to your lived experience and this question of how do small farms compete against big farms? Yeah. Okay. We'll pause. We'll get to that later. Thank you. That was great. Any other resonances? Maybe 2 more people. What stood out to you in the video? Yes.
I had this very powerful experience because I mistook what are the wires in front of the blossoms or in the foreground, and I was kind of in this space of imagining your family in the internship camp, and then it becoming these blossoms and this farm. Nice. So it was just very stunning and very moving and very powerful.
Amazing.
You'd make a great poet, I think.
Thank you. One more person. Did I see your hand up? Yeah.
We were talking about like the juxtaposition against like the grandma's resistance and aversion to going to the farm with the pictures of these like really alluring, beautiful flowers. At the same time, they were talking about how she didn't want to come. Like you're like, why would you not want to go to that? It was beautiful.
Yeah, so you picked up on this tension in our family history of not wanting to farm, not trusting that farming was a viable option, that owning land was a good idea as a Japanese American, against this really beautiful image of nature of the blossoms. Wonderful. So keep your active listening going. This is just a warm-up. We're going to continue to dialogue more.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much for engaging in that episode. We're still getting used to this film. It's kind of different to see yourself on a big screen. I want to continue the idea of story, though, and the power of story with the premise number 2, that you can't change food without sweat. So here's my question. How is sweat part of your food? The truth is, of course, sweat comes from farm workers, farmers and those in the food chain. It's part of that mundane and part of the mythology that we have, that there's this duality that sweat can kill you, but at the same time it makes food sweet. You have hand labor, hand grown, hand touch. There is this myth that you could avoid sweat by mechanization and new technologies. But here's my question. Can you grow food without hands? And hands imply, of course, sweat. I want to read just a passage from one of my books, Wisdom of the Last Farmer, that talks about sweat. I'm not sure you understand sweat. Out on the farm, I've tasted sweat, a salty, tangy flavor as it drips down my temples and beads on my upper lip and slips across my cheeks. Farm work makes me sweat. It first appears on my chest, seeping through my pores, subtle, unannounced, and silent on bare skin. I can feel my t-shirt and work shirt stick to my flesh, clinging to my body. I grow conscious of my heavy breathing. I can feel moisture in my hair. A drop dribbles down my temples, my forehead beads. I wipe away the perspiration, blink to keep it out of my eyes. An old farmer once told me, sweat will harden you. I thought he meant about the tough lessons of life, but now I know better. Hard sweat drains you of youth. I feel old, years lost in the physical work of farming. I've changed from a young farmer to an old one with nothing in between. You start out young, and after a few years of sweat, you're old. I collapse home on the porch, and my children see me, and they worry. Something wrong? Are you okay, Dad? My eyes stay shut. I shake my head. This farm's gonna kill me. And they stand silently because they know I'm telling the truth. That's about sweat. So that's part of that premise again, that you can't change food without sweat. Premise number 3, you can't change the world of food without old equipment. And as I get older, this sounds better and better to me. I brought a shovel from our farm. This is a wonderful shovel. This shovel has been passed down from generations. This shovel was once pointed. So how does it get like this? Through hard physical work. That's how this shovel is. It started with my grandparents, and they wore it down, then my parents, and then myself. I look at this and I go, this becomes a timeline of our farm. My timeline will be about here. And then I look at that and I realize that's about an inch off of this. And I don't work that hard. I think mine will maybe be about a ½ inch then on this. But this type of shovel is unique to our farm because it's honed perfectly for the sandy loam of our farm. It won't work well in clay, and it won't work well in sandier soils. This type of shovel glides through the weeds on our farm because in the prairie that we live, it doesn't rain a lot. Most weeds are fairly shallow rooted. It fits our land. It's part of that old equipment that tells the story and the legacy of our land. It's been honed to the shape of the farm. That's why old equipment works on certain farms, and it belongs on those farms. It's as if experience matters, and you can see it in that shovel very much. It's that type of experience that marks the senses that take place on our farm in all kinds of different ways. We develop a personal relationship with all of our equipment. You can see the fingerprints of prior generations on the land, and that's what we inherit in the food today. That kind of story about old equipment frames the work and frames the story and talks about change and innovation at the same time. Because there's a simple reality about succession in anything, and especially on the farm. And the simple reality is this: to change something is sometimes to tell a prior generation they're doing it wrong. That's a tough one to accept, but yet it's part of the evolution of farming. Premise number 4 has to do with finances. You can't change the world of food without understanding farmer economics. it's all about capital. Not just money, but human capital, social capital, cultural capital. They're all valid and they all work together simultaneously, which creates a crazy, conflicting, contradictory world. But it's all driven by what's important to you, the farmer, and eventually you, the consumers.